So the interesting thing about Simpsons Land is that license is going to expire soon that Universal has. I'm not 100% sure if they even have the option to renew it. Previously with the Marvel Land, it's not indefinite, but it's like a 99-year license that they made with Marvel. So Universal has it, and Disney can't like close it down, but they also can't build anything new. But with this Simpsons one, I think it's up to Disney if they want to allow it to renew, if Universal even wants to renew it.
It's not like an ironclad, like weird agreement like the Marvel Land was. But the thing that I think is funny about the Marvel Superhero Island deal is that its like wording is very like old-timey. I think the verbiage is they have rights to any Marvel Comics theme park attractions east of the Mississippi, which is just very like history class sounding.
But what's up with the Marvel is they can't really build anything new there, but they also have to maintain it. They can't just let it run down because Disney does send people in there frequently to make sure it's still not like all run down because it's still their IP. So they can't just decide, well, we're gonna stop cleaning there. They have to keep it up to a certain standard, but they also can't build anything new. And I imagine the license is like that because when Marvel signed it, they were in desperate financial straits. So they weren't in a position to be like demanding good terms. But with The Simpsons, Fox was not in a financial situation where they're like, we'll sign anything. So it was more favorable to Fox, and now Disney owns Fox. So now they have Simpsons Land, which is owned by Disney, along with Marvel Land, which is owned by Disney. So I think it's pretty safe to say Simpsons is going away from Universal. I think the rumors are it'll be an expansion of Nintendo. I'm not a big Universal guy. I don't like supporting the U-word parks. I like Nintendo and I like Simpsons, not as much as Nintendo, but I do like The Simpsons. It's not long for this world. And Disney's very clearly, they consider Simpsons a very important part of the Fox acquisition. They just announced The Simpsons movie 2.
Homer's coming back for seconds. Yeah. That tagline cracks me up for some reason. Because it says Homer, it's just so weird.
Well, because people will see the hand and the donut and the Simpsons logo and they won't know who it is.
Well, yeah, it could be Bart.
Once Disney Plus launched with The Simpsons, they very much consider it a part of the Disney characters, kind of like how they consider Pixar Disney characters, which is weird because I remember when I was a kid, and more so for kids of the like 90s, because this would have been in the 2000s when I started watching it in like 3rd grade, but it was still considered like more adult. But I think by today's standards, it's really so tame.
No, like on paper, it was always for like, quote unquote, like, more mature audiences, but it was it was a cartoon. Like its audience always was like teenagers and people younger.
But like in the early 90s, it was seen like, oh, Bart's a bad influence.
Oh, yeah. George Bush condemned it.
We are going to keep on trying to strengthen the American family, to make American families a lot more like the Waltons and a lot less like the Simpsons.
When I was in like 4th or 5th grade, I was allowed to watch The Simpsons because my dad liked it, but I wasn't allowed to watch Family Guy or South Park.
Kind of makes sense why Family Guy hasn't been integrated so much, even though they own it just as much.
Disney Plus now has stuff for just grown-ups, but don't worry, there are parental controls.
Because Family Guy, not so much now, but like 2007 to like 2012, they were really like trying to do as the most objectionable things they could get away with on network TV, which in a way was different than like South Park, which is probably like way more offensive than Family Guy, but it's also on like Comedy Central at like 11 o'clock at night.
But yeah, with like Family Guy had more like, I guess, like race and religion and sex jokes than The Simpsons ever did. Like Simpsons never like went like really blue.
They're still using Family Guy. They do like the exclusive episodes to Disney Plus and Hulu. I guess one could argue Simpsons is still bigger. I honestly think that's debatable. But back to the theme park. You've been to Simpsons Land, Springfield, USA?
I have, yes. I went there when I feel like the first time I went there, I don't know if I'm misremembering this, but I think it was only the ride and then they added the restaurants. The ride opened in 2008 and then 2013 they built the rest of Springfield.
Do you like the Simpsons ride?
I actually rode it in June this year, and it was an unpleasant experience. I wish I liked it because The Simpsons, again, at least like the first like 12 seasons, is probably like my favorite show ever made. The ride video is really ugly 2000s CG. Like it looks like it's using like the Simpsons hit and run models.
It would have been better to just make it like a driving in the car with Homer simulator than what they tried to do, which is like you're on a digital roller coaster.
Yeah, if they had just built out something original, I feel like there's no way that their choice of ride system for The Simpsons would have been a motion simulator. But yeah, they were like building it off the bones of something else.
A dark ride, like kind of like the Roger Rabbit ride at Disneyland, would make more sense for Simpsons, where you like can spin the car around and just props.
Actually, yeah, that is probably like what the perfect solution would have been, just like that kind of like Fantasyland style dark ride, or like if you had to go like more higher tech, something like the Radiator Springs Racers. Like you're going through like big elaborate show scenes, and like I think specifically with Radiator Springs Racers, it does a great job of bringing the Cars characters to real life.
Isn't there a King Kong ride at Universal where there's like a person driving, but it's an animatronic?
Yes.
Is the tour guide animatronic? Is it like a very minimal movement, or is it fairly robust?
It's super basic because you only ever see it from the back. So it's just like basically like a mannequin with a wig that like turns its head. But like the motion is pretty much it's just like moving it, like tilting its head while it's talking.
Because I was thinking you take the simulator ride, but instead of being in the fake roller coaster cart, put you in the Simpsons car, and in the front seat is Homer, and you're in the back seat.
Oh, that's a terrific idea. That would be awesome.
Like, how much would you have Homer move? And that gets really expensive if you're putting a Homer in every car, if it's doing anything other than just like moving left and right.
Well, it's a turkey in every oven and a Homer in every garage.
Even better would be each car has a different driver, so you get into somebody from Springfield's car.
Oh, that would be a cool thing for rewritability. It's like, oh, like I wrote it and I got Chief Wiggum, or, like I wrote it and I got the comic book guy or whatever.
Yeah. So the Universal Springfield, I haven't been to the one, I've never been to Universal in Orlando, but I've been to the Universal in Hollywood, which has its own Springfield. I think it's a bit smaller than Orlando's one. And it's nice. It's definitely a couple tiers down from the theming of Harry Potter. They didn't try and make it that immersive. It's very much almost like a Toontown storefront.
It is very much Universal's Toontown. I guess aside from the comic strip land in Islands of Adventure.
But it is nice. I rode the Simpsons ride, which I enjoyed. I was surprised because I didn't know anything about it. How the ride system works is just like Back to the Future, which I also didn't know about. I had always thought Back to the Future was literally just a copy of Star Tours, but, a different ride film. I didn't realize the vehicles were like completely different. You have a domed screen and then you're in individual cars. So like, I guess the Back to the Future, each one would have been a different DeLorean rather than just having 50 people in one thing looking outside. It's very unique when it comes to ride simulators. It's not just a Star Tours clone.
Yeah, you're basically like a bunch of cars like in a movie theater, like looking at a big 3D IMAX screen.
I don't think you can see the other cars while you're riding.
If you're tall enough, you can kind of peek your head over the sides because they have those blinders on the side. I was talking about how like I didn't really have a great experience on it when I rode it in June. When we got to the part where like, you go into your individual room where the ride vehicle is just on its own and you're supposed to kind of like sit in it, like put your stuff in a cubby and then like wait for the ride to start. Like when we got to that part, there was like no employees around at all. So like we were just like, wait, where are we supposed to go? And then we just like went into one of the open door, like we just like kept walking around until we found an open door and then went into that one. And then like, we're like, okay, like what are we supposed to do? And then like eventually like a kind of like confused employee came by. That's like, oh, okay. So you guys go in there now. And then like close the door behind us. And then we were just like, and like didn't say like get in the vehicle or anything. They said, okay, there you are, and close the door. So we're just like in this room with no like direction of what you're supposed to do. It was really weird. But the other thing I wanted to add about the before we go past it about the Simpsons ride that I wasn't a fan of was that apart from just like we discussed it being a bad fit for the IP, I generally don't get sick on rides. I've only ever got so sick I threw up from a ride once, and that was just I can't do like rocking back and forth. It was one of those like Viking ship ones. But when we rode the Simpsons ride, after that I had to like sit down for a while because I just felt like sick to my stomach because it's just like it's a janky, really dated simulator, and unlike Star Tours, it just like wasn't like advanced enough to like stand the test of time. I think
I can get motion sick I can think of a couple rides. Star Tours, I'm usually fine, though I've done it where there was no line and I rode it 3 times in a row. The third time, I was done.
That'll get me when they do something over and over again. Like even like coasters don't get me, but I like my favorite coaster in the world is El Toro. And one time I got to Six Flags Great Adventure, like right at opening, and just went right to El Toro, and like when there was no line, just like marathoned it. And after the third one, I was like, I can't do anymore.
This Simpsons ride, isn't Flight of Passage basically just an evolution of the Simpsons ride? Because it's a motion simulator, but you're in individual.
No, I actually hadn't thought of it that way, but you are right. It's a motion simulator where everyone's looking at one screen. The other thing that I don't like on the Simpsons ride is it has the same issue that Stitch's Great Escape did with smell. Because like there's a part in the ride where Maggie Simpson becomes like radioactive and a giant and puts the ride vehicle in her mouth, and it makes there like a baby powder smell fill the room. Because it's but this ride's been going for like more than 15 years every single day. The whole room just kind of stinks all the time.
The whole thing stinks like yesterday's diapers.
It's like the same thing with Stitch's Great Escape. Like there's a part where Stitch burps in it, but because they like spray a burp smell in there every single day, 365 days a year, the room just always stinks.
They had a problem when they first opened Mickey's Philhar Magic. During the Aladdin scene, they put the scent of jasmine, and most people did not react well to it.
I mean, they do that on Flight of Passage too, but they're not as jarring as as jasmine or chili dog or baby powder.
Shrek's pole.
But yeah, they don't make you sniff the pole.
Simpsons, like I said, not long for this world. What we get to now is once it closes at Universal, what's Disney going to do with it? They're making a new Simpsons movie. They clearly want to utilize the IP. Everything in their parks has to be based on IP anyways, at least under Iger, and I don't see that changing under the next guy. So, what are they going to do with it? How should they do it? Are they going to do it in any way that's better than what Universal already did? First thing that comes to my mind is you take Flight of Passage and you retheme it, and it's like you're flying through Springfield.
I don't think that they would build something that elaborate for something that's for a cartoon.
I didn't mean build a new one. I mean they replace Flight of Passage with...
Oh, they just put it in Animal Kingdom.
It would make most sense in Orlando, Hollywood Studios. There's a whole thing ever since Harry Potter Land opened in Universal. Now all the theme parks, they do a land and it's based around one single IP. And I think it would be better off if they're going to build something in Hollywood Studios, do a Fox Land or Fox Animation Domination Land or whatever. You could have Simpsons, you could have Family Guy, you could have King of the Hill because they just brought that back. I guess Bob's Burgers. I've never watched that. I don't know what they do. Put the Bob's Burgers burger restaurant. I don't know what it's called, but
Universal made it work. They were smart with how they implemented the Simpsons Land. The tough thing about making a Simpsons Land would be that they already did it as well as I think you could. There are ways they could improve, but generally the Simpsons food court at Universal is a pretty solid execution of that idea. Aside from the fact that the flaming moe they serve, but first of all, isn't even on fire. It's just steaming with dry ice. And second of all, it doesn't have cough syrup in it. Oh yeah, it's not even alcoholic. It's like an energy drink. They have the place where you can buy Duff. If they did something like that, but just kind of bigger scale, at a more Potterland or Galaxy's Edge or Toy Story Land kind of scale where you go full on in it. In general, I think with that idea of also doing King of the Hill and Family Guys, you run into the issue that they did with Marvel Land where their shows people they're not something like Harry Potter or Star Wars or Avatar where people watch that movie and they said I wish I could go there. They had Quahog and Springfield and stuff. Once you go big scale with that, you're just building a normal town. It's not awe-inspiring.
You don't need to do a full Springfield or a full Quahog, though I'd want a full Quahog. You can do a street that literally has the Simpsons Evergreen Terrace house next to the Family Guy Spooner Street house, next to the King of the Hill house. I don't know. The King of the Hill curb. King of the Hill can just be an Instagram photo op where you can stand
in front of the fence and drink beer.
And the Bob's Burgers, do they have a house in that? Or is it just the restaurant?
I think they live in an apartment, but the restaurant's obviously the more iconic one there.
It's okay if you don't build out all of Springfield. You can just have multiple things in one.
No, I completely agree with that. I wish that when they expanded on Hollywood Studios, they just instead of making Toy Story Land, they expanded the Pixar Place thing where it's supposed to look like the Pixar campus. And, they put like, an Incredibles ride, put the door coaster there.
At Disneyland Toontown, they still have Mickey's house and Minnie's house you can walk through. It would be cool to have the Springfield, the Simpsons house, and you can actually walk through and explore it. Same thing with the Family Guy house.
That's a great point. That would be such an easy home run. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't do that when they built it in Universal. Just have like a walkthrough thing like the Mickey's house, because that
you walk through the house and then you have the option to get in line to get your picture with the characters.
Yeah, that would be a great idea if they had something like a more like dedicated meet and greet space.
Not the last D23, but the D23 before Disney Plus launched, they had meet and greets with Homer and Bart.
That's funny. I wonder if they were the same costumes that Universal uses.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I think an interesting difference in like the execution. How would Disney execute Springfield differently than they did at Universal?
See, I've grown to really like Galaxy's Edge, but they just completely dropped the ball with it, where they overthought it way too much. The story goes it's Kathleen Kennedy who's like, well, this should be a new place. Problem is that they created a whole new place that you've never seen before. So you're going into a Star Wars land. Like, it might as well be any fantasy place, because it would have made more sense. The original pitch is like, well, you'll be in the cantina and you'll be on Tatooine and you can go see a pod race. If you're applying that logic to The Simpsons, they wouldn't build Springfield, they built Shelbyville.
Man, I hate those Shelbyville jerks.
Honey, I was born in Shelbyville.
And it tears me up inside.
I am pro Batu. I think that they did the right call with Galaxy's Edge, because if they had just built out Tatooine, everything would be tan and dusty and like not visually interesting. The most iconic Star Wars environments are on board the ship. So like the interior of the Falcon, the inside of the Star Destroyers.
I like it now. I think the biggest mistake really was that they thought, well, this needs to be set in the sequel era, which means we can't show you other characters, that it can't break canon.
Like who gives a fuck?
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
They used to do Star Wars weekends and they have greetings with characters from all over the saga. And so now they built Star Wars Land. It's like, well, you can meet Rey and you can meet Kylo Ren. And it's like, you have a Star Wars Land, you can't see Darth Vader.
Yeah, like the most famous villain of all time, who wears a mask and would be completely easy to do in a meet and greet.
But it would also be weird if they were to build a Simpsons Land now. Would they just do Springfield again? That's the thing. It's like, because it already existed at another park. Not another park somewhere else, another park 10 miles away.
It would just be seen as such an obvious like copycat move. I don't think they would do it, along with the fact that it's a show where the general consensus is it hasn't been good in like 20 years.
I who watched The Simpsons back in 1994 and won't admit the damn thing isn't funny anymore.
And also the fact that it would be so confusing to tourists, because they already have people who like walk into the Magic Kingdom and go into the guest relations and say, like, where's Harry Potter? So if you're gonna then like build a land that used to be in your competitor's park, that's gonna like confuse people even more.
As for California, they really don't have a lot of space there, so I don't really see them doing a Springfield there, because it's not that valuable. Simpsons, it's not. Well, they're building Avatar, and Avatar doesn't have staying power, so I guess they could.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, like, they're building a Coco ride at DCA. Coco's not. Simpsons is bigger than Coco. I don't see them putting it in DCA because the theming doesn't match, but then again, they're putting stuff in there that makes no sense. Well, they'd be on vacation in California, so they wouldn't build Springfield, but they would have, like, the characters. Would make sense. And this is kind of taking from Universal again. Turn Pixar Pier, which sucks. It used to look great when it was not IP based, but the Pixar theming is really chintzy. The theming is just gross and it's like puns. They have the abominable snowman from Monsters Inc. and he's selling the snow cones and it's supposed to be like a pee joke. He's like, oh, it's lemon.
Literally urine themed.
So get rid of the Pixar theming and then make Pixar Pier. Make it
Springfield Pier.
Krusty the Clown Boardwalk.
That's not far from what they have at Universal now. The whole facade of the Simpsons ride is Krusty Land, and like I do really like the entrance to the ride where you go into where you like walk in his mouth. Actually, the one line on the ride that really makes me laugh is "Come on this magical journey into my mouth."
But that goes back to my whole pet peeve where they feel like a character an IP has to be its own land. And I just don't think that's necessary. You could literally have the Simpsons walk around DCA and have them be in like stereotypical tourist clothes, like Homer's in a Hawaiian shirt and are like, oh, we're taking pictures of Hollywood. We're taking pictures of, what else is in? I don't know. When you go back to Disney's Hollywood Studios, to how the park used to be when it was actually studio themed, you could have it where you would have the Simpsons walking around. They're movie stars and they're here. Like they had like a dinosaur parade or something, like based on the show Dinosaur.
They had the dinosaurs, they had the Ninja Turtles.
Like you could just have them all walking around because it's a Hollywood studio. And yes, it's not a real studio, but it doesn't matter.
Something similar to what they did with the Muppets would also work. They have the Muppets courtyard,
Which is gone now.
Yeah, R.I.P. But they had like kind of like a mini land.
Disney's Hollywood Studios makes the most sense. Yes, they're getting the Monsters Inc. coaster and the Blob Theater. They're getting 2 new rides, but they closed other rides. The park has no capacity. The current map, it's so weird looking because there's just all these empty areas of nothing.
Especially because they closed the animation courtyard. The new map they started using a few weeks ago, it has the whole former animation courtyard just covered up by the green forest texture.
So my final question is, the new Simpsons movie is July of 2027. Knowing Disney's timetables for construction, obviously there's not going to be a new ride or land by then. Do you think they'll have anything? And do you think Universal will close it early?
I think they might have like the other times when they do a movie premiere at Disney Springs, a photo op there. That they're definitely not gonna make any permanent construction. But again, I think the contract ends in 2028. The movie's coming out in 2027, so they won't be able to do anything in the parks. But even if they were able to, I don't think they would.